Hello, everyone. It is I, the Fable of Fables, your new best friend. How are you guys doing? I'm putting out so much Gundam and Transformers nonsense. I thought might as well check out some Elder Scrolls nonsense. We're gonna be learning about the Sload. I think they're called the Sloads. Honestly, these dudes suck. Like, I'm not even just saying that to say that. I mean, generally, these dudes are like some of the worst creatures in the Elder Scrolls universe. They fucking suck, man. They're gross. They're ugly. They're rude. And I think at one point they literally sent out a plague that almost destroyed everyone. They're assholes.
Hello YouTube, and welcome to another Elder Scrolls lore video. Today we're talking about the Sload and their far-off homeland of Thras. This is a topic that has been requested several times over the last few years, and I've so far only touched on it lightly in a few older videos, so
Oh yeah.
I felt like it's finally time to dedicate a video solely to this topic. That said, it took a while to get all the lore scraps together from all the games, so yeah, it took a while. So without much further ado, let's begin. So, most people by now have at least heard of the Sload race in their homeland of Thras. While this race of amphibious, often called slug-like creatures, have not appeared in a lot of Elder Scrolls games, they've made a few appearances in the Elder Scrolls Adventures Redguards and the Elder Scrolls Online, with multiple Sloads appearing in the Elder Scrolls Online Somerset DLC. They are the masters of magic and necromancy, with
Oh yeah.
teleportation and levitation magic being the primary method of transportation within their society. This is due to their bodies, especially in adulthood, being very inconvenient to move around, as you can probably see in the pictures.
Yeah, they're disgusting.
They are also the masters of necromancy and have an innate adeptness to it and love experimenting on dead bodies. Some legends even tell of magical airships being used by the Sload in order to transport masses of Tamrielic dead
Mass airships? I didn't know that part. Damn, okay.
to the Thras Islands in order to be used for experimentation.
Ugh.
And sometimes, when they can't find Tamrielic dead bodies to experiment on, it's said that they will even experiment on their own children, or larvae as some call them. But usually, Tamrielic bodies are relatively easy to come by, as it's Redguard tradition to bury the dead by the sea on islands, and thus the Sload would often scout the coast of Hammerfell for their experimentations, sometimes even setting up field laboratories of sorts there. Their society is known to have little in terms of morals or compassion, as Sloads are extremely self-centered and usually only scheme for their own benefits. And the Sload are known to break laws rather easily when the laws obstruct their goals. They will easily steal, torture, or murder if that's in line with their goals. And most Tamrielic observers agree that the notion for greed is the only thing that the Sloads have ever displayed in terms of emotion. They do not seem to seek love, are not interested in friendship or loyalty or anything of the sort. Most adult Sloads don't even care about the survival of their own race, and they are being more occupied with their own experiments. It is said quite quickly.
It's interesting because if a species doesn't care for its own, like its own race, how the hell does they keep going on?
After the reaching of adulthood, the Sloads will lose their capability for reproduction, and that from that moment on they will solely care about their own goals. This results in a clear division between young Sloads and older Sloads, with Sloads in adolescence, which are not able to survive on land, being the ones responsible for their reproduction in the sea, and older Sloads, after they can start living on the land, disconnecting themselves from the others to focus on their own business. Once a Sload reaches adulthood, it will no longer care for the fate of its own children, and as said before, will sometimes even experiment on their own kin, or they will use dead Sload larvae for the production.
So yeah, so that's the thing. Like legitimately, if a species like this literally experiments on itself and its own race, how the hell do they still exist? Just I don't know, bullshit maybe. This is just crack is what this is. Jesus Christ, man.
Of Sload soap, a weird alchemical substance making an appearance in Morrowind and the Skyrim Creation Club. In addition to a proficiency in magic and necromancy, a sharp mind is very much valued in the society of the Sloads. The greatest heroes of their society are those with sharp minds that overthink every little detail of their plans, sometimes contemplating for years and then manage to execute their plans flawlessly. Being hasty and reckless is being heavily frowned upon in the society of the Sloads, with their great villains being the ones that act hastily and recklessness. So most of the Sload population is known to be very cautious in their decision making. It is said that it takes a very long time to get a clear answer from a Sload, as a Sload will usually just intentionally ponder their answers for a long time and don't choose to answer hastily, and rather wait until they've basically examined every little tidbit about the answer they want to give. Something interesting to note here is that most of the Sload are known to be completely illiterate. They cannot read
Wait,
or
what?
write, they can only speak and listen. Their memories, however,
Interesting.
are the best on all of Nern, and their capabilities of their memory far exceed that of our own, with them being able to flawlessly remember everything since becoming sentient in adolescence. As far as we know, the Sloads do not worship any pantheon of gods. They don't have a pantheon of their own and do not recognize the authority of gods, but they do
Makes
recognize the
sense.
existence of gods and Daedra, and when it serves their own goals, they will sometimes even worship a Daedric prince in order to get some kind of benefit. But this is done solely for their own goals, more like a business transaction. It's not genuinely worship for a prince. The same goes for individuals on Tamriel. They will not subject themselves to any ruler. For example, they won't subject themselves to the emperor or anything like that.
They're so disgusting. What the frick? Look at that disgusting thing. Also, I still think it's incredibly funny, that one quote from Oblivion. It's like, you worship the Aedra, right? Tell me, do they ever do anything? Do they ever hurt you, help you? It's like, if you worship, it's like, you should worship a Daedra. You'll get results. Bad ones, but you'll get results. Still, my
But they
favorite
respect powerful
quote.
necromancers and those individuals with a sharp mind, and have allied themselves with them throughout the years whenever it serves their own purpose. A good example of this is their alliance with Mandamarco, one of the, if not the greatest necromancers that has ever lived. They basically allied with them for their own goals, because he had similar goals to them, being a powerful necromancer. That said, none of these allies ever seem to have visited their coral kingdom of Thras, a chain of 16 islands into far west of the Abyssinian Sea. These islands constantly change sizes through unknown means. Some say through magic, while others say through the tides. And
It's possibly a combination of magic and the tides,
other
honestly.
Tamrielic observers simply blame it on inaccurate and incomplete accounts of the islands.
I don't know.
The accounts of those who've seen the great coral kingdoms of Thras are mostly incomplete, as not many who accidentally sailed there ever returned, with most of them getting lost at sea and then being captured by the Sloads, killed and then used for necromantic experiments. The only ones that seem to have ever been welcome to visit the islands and lay a gaze on its wonders and the large coral tower were the Marmor, whom with the Sloads seemed to have a loose alliance in the past.
Interesting.
The few accounts that we have of their islands, however, all depict a large coral tower, a large tower made out of blood-red coral built upon one of their
Blood-red
islands,
coral.
and said to have been
Ooh.
even larger than the White Gold Tower. With that being said, the tower got destroyed during the invasion of Thras by the All-Flags Navy, a navy formed of troops from all of the nations of Tamriel, sent to Thras to destroy it as a payback for the Thracian plague which the Sloads had unleashed on Tamriel.
There it is. There's that plague I was talking about. Because I remember the Sload did actually send a plague that almost killed off, that killed off a lot of people. And then the Sloads were, because they're at fault, they had to be kind of taught a lesson, essentially.
Several years before. But I'm getting ahead of myself here, because due to their necromantic tendencies and their self-serving nature, the Sload and the races of Tamriel have never been the best of friends. There have often been wars, invasions, and other instances in which usually the contact wasn't very nice. They've been at odds with the inhabitants of the Somerset
that's
Isles,
putting it lightly,
especially
homie.
seeing as parts of the islands are seen as their property by the Sloads. They've sieged cities on the islands multiple times, in the end all failing, with the most famous probably being the siege of Skywatch. However, at the start of the last millennium of the First Era, the Sload committed their most gruesome deed. They unleashed the Thracian plague upon Tamriel, a plague responsible for the halving of Tamriel's population and livestock. Once the plague had started to subside, the rulers of Tamriel assembled the largest coalition ever assembled on the continent and constructed a large fleet, the All-Flags Navy, in order to burn Thras to the ground and kill every Sload that they could find. It is said that as a result of the invasion, countless Sloads lay dead, the coral tower was destroyed and the islands had sunk into the bottom of the sea. We do not know, however, whether the Tamrielic forces sunk the islands to the bottom of the sea and destroyed the tower, or whether the Sloads did this on purpose in order to ward off the navy, as the Tamrielic forces could not operate on the bottom of the ocean, while the Sloads are amphibious and thus can survive underwater. After this, the Sloads managed to regain most of their strength and assaulted Tamriel many more times, with their islands eventually completely re-emerging from the sea. but never again did they unleash a plague like the Thracian plague again. Perhaps even the self-centered Sload became averted to such an idea after the slaughter of their race by the Alflux Navy, as before their island sunk, a lot of Sloads were killed. So, finally, what have we not covered in this video yet? Well, first of all, the case of Ngesta, the Sload that we can meet in the Elder Scrolls Redguards. This Sload managed to actually learn how to write, something that's very, very rare in their society. And as far as we know, Ngesta is the only Sload that ever did it. And it said that Ngesta was feared for it within their own society.
Wait, what?
Second, it said that the Sloads have a leader of some sort, or had a leader of some sort. From the very limited accounts of this that we have, it said that this leader is a very large bloated Elder Sload with the title Elder Descendant One. But what exact authority this figure has is unknown, as most Sloads are self-centered, and I can't imagine a very tight law working there. Unless it's like a very libertarian kind of thing. And finally, there are multiple Sload kingdoms. The Sload kingdom of Thras is by far the most well known. However, the Sloads that we can see in the Elder Scrolls Online are actually sea Sloads, which are Sloads from the underwater kingdom of Ulvor Kus, which are said to have been founded by Sloads that were basically chased off the Somerset Isles by the first Altmerry inhabitants. We don't know the politics between the different Sload kingdoms, but we do know that the kingdom of Thras is by far the largest and most powerful. That said, this is basically all the information that I've been able to find on the Sloads. I hope you enjoyed this video, and if you did,
I mean, I did learn a lot, thank
consider
you.
returning for the next Elder Scrolls lore video next week. My current video schedule is a bit shaky as I'm working on a big channel anniversary project that drains a lot of my time and resources next to the university and work. So I hope you guys enjoy the videos and that I have time to put out. This one was a long time coming and it took a long time to fact check all the sources, so I hope you guys had a good time with it. That said, allow me to thank my top patrons, Mr. Bernardo Binda, Gabriel Binda, Mr. Para, Mr. Christmas and Mr. Daniel Deli, and of course all the others on screen that make my lore videos possible. These people, my patrons, recently got a tour of my, well, room, office, home.
Alright guys, if you like this kind of content, do like, comment, and subscribe. I love you all, stay safe. I'm gonna be definitely, anyway. Guys, if you like this kind of content, do like, comment, subscribe. I'm gonna go now. I love you all. Stay safe. I'm gonna be learning more about Elder Scrolls soon. Just give me some time, because I got too many things going on. I love you guys. Bye!